Thank you very much. Welcome to you all, and thank you again for letting me come and speak here about innovation and startups. I have been working in the field of innovation in almost all of my professional life. At least that's the way I feel. I've been working. I have been working both in private companies, but also in public institutions. But the places I have worked, I have always tried to challenge people. And this is sort of easier when you work in a private company, but sometimes it's very difficult when you work in a public institution, because it's difficult sometimes to challenge people in the public area. It's easier in the private. So in a way, I feel that I'm kind of born to work in the field of innovation, where you have to try out new things, where you have to do business development. And this goes both for startup companies, SMEs, but also for big organizations who want to do new things. As it is now, I have my own consultancy company, and there's two areas that I work in. One of them is to help startup companies and small companies to go to market. I have noticed that a lot of startup companies and small companies are, for example, not very good at finding out what is it really the customer wants. So what is the mission and the value of the company? The second thing is that small companies are not very good at communicating their messages to customers. So those are some of the things that I work with within private companies. Secondly, I also work with large companies and public institutions in orchestrating how to work with innovation from the inside of these organizations. Because as I said before, big public organizations are not always very innovative, so they need people to come in and help them how to orchestrate this and how to create a culture for innovation. And as you can see from the bottom, I work with the Copenhagen Business School. I have worked with the Danish Ministry of Higher Education and Science, and also with one of the 5 regions in Denmark, where I have done some healthcare innovation work together with them. My presentation today, I have 30 minutes, now there's 27 minutes left, is going to be about why innovation and why innovation networks. The Danish innovation story. I think we have some experiences that could be interesting for you here in Konkan to learn about. My own innovation story, it's a very long one, but I'll make it very short, and I'll give you some tools and best practices for the work ahead of you. So first of all, I would like to share with you the whole question of why innovation. Why do we need startup companies with new solutions? Why do we need to innovate? We don't innovate just to innovate. We actually innovate because somebody is demanding or asking for solutions for specific areas. For example, I noticed that in this city, you work a lot with the concept of smart cities. So I guess you are looking for companies who can actually provide solutions for smart cities. The people on the picture here is one of my whys. They are 2 patients or citizens in Denmark who have 2 chronic diseases. Their names are Lise and Bjørn, and I have been working a lot in healthcare innovation, and I've learned a lot to look at what is it really that the customer wants, and in this case, it's the patient. So I noticed out here that a couple of the startups here are working within health tech. I was very happy to see that. But again, I go back to say you have to look at the why innovation. It's not a question about innovating just to innovate and be able to say that I'm innovating, I'm a startup company, I'm doing this and that. It's a question of finding out why are you doing this? Who is going to buy your solution at the end? Because if there is no customer, there is also no startup or no innovation. And I think it's also important to talk about what is innovation, and I'm sure that you have seen probably a whole number of definitions of what is innovation. Personally, I like one which is an innovation is new, it's usable, and it's also implemented. Because an innovation is not an innovation until the moment it has actually been brought to market and also implemented, in my opinion. So I like very much the short definition of new, usable, and implemented. And innovation is also much more than products. So that's why I brought you this slide with a picture of a model from the book called 10 Types of Innovation by Larry Keeley, because it actually explains, and I hope you can see it down there, that it's not only about products, it's also about innovating within your network, innovating your processes, innovating your services, brand, and your customer engagement. And a lot of companies, also the big ones, they are not very much aware of where they have to innovate. And according to looking at the landscape for startup companies, I think a lot of startup companies are also very much in love with the product side, the solution side, but actually not on the services that go around the product. Yeah, and then one of the topics for my presentation is the question of why international networks. And so I say that 1 + 1 is not 2. 1 + 1 should give 3 because you should have an added value in working within international networks. It's not about always just working with the same people, working in the same place. What I call not invented here. You want to stay where you are. You want your invention just to be where you are. But that's not going to scale your business, and that's not going to work out for you. So you have to get out of what I call your comfort zone. You have to meet new people. You have to travel. You have to talk to people that speak other languages. You have to find out what's going on outside of your city, and in this case, in Khon Kaen and Thailand. You have to meet other people. You have to meet startups from other countries. You have to meet networks from other countries. You have to work across professional careers. And you also have to work across sectors. You have to work between the private sector and the public sector. And I know this is the case for Khon Kaen because that's what I heard this morning. So I was already very happy that it is happening. I'm sure it is happening in Thailand already. As I said before, work across cultures. And then to think in open innovation processes across sectors. Where you will have some challenges probably because it's a new way of working. Suddenly you have to include a lot of people in your processes. And there may be a lot of questions when you work in the open innovation field. And it could also be a good idea to formalize the networking. So it's not just something that happens because you met somebody, but it's something that is a part of the strategy of the city, of the startup, of the community. That could actually improve your ways to the international networks. Yeah, and then on this slide, I just showed you some of the books on open innovation. Because this is not a new phenomenon, open innovation, but I think it could be useful for you in your case. The idea of opening up when you innovate, invite a lot of people to a workshop and innovate together, but always finding out what is the why. Why are we here? Because we have to know what the mission is. Yeah, so it's about the outside in and the inside out. You have to invite other people into your innovation field. And the opportunity with open innovation is also that you get superior ideas and knowledge, you get lower cost for innovation, you get better quality innovation, and you can go faster to market because you are working together with other people, also from other countries. Now I'm going to tell you a little bit about what's going on in my country, Denmark. How many of you have know Denmark? I mean, have you heard about Denmark? Raise your hand, please. Yes, that's good. Have any of you been to Denmark? There's a couple of people actually. I'm very happy to see that. But you know, Denmark is a very small country. I'm going to point it out here. It's up here. It's a very small country with 5 million inhabitants. So it's probably the size of this region, I imagine, in Thailand. It's a very small country. But in 2016, we came up as the second most innovative country in Europe. So not only in the European Union, but also including all the other countries in Europe. And I want to share with you why is it that we came out as one of the most innovative countries in Europe. Well, it's because we have an open, as it says, unique innovation ecosystem. And I think I heard the minister say the word ecosystem a couple of times, even though I don't speak Thai, I kind of got that word. So we have a unique innovation system in Denmark, an ecosystem. It's open and it's excellent, and we are very good at attracting researchers. We are very good at linkaging universities to businesses, to startup companies. So when we do all these things together, we come up very high on the scoreboard. And we also have a lot of entrepreneurs. We have a lot of startup companies in Denmark. And we have a lot of public-private collaboration across universities and private companies, and also the people who are going to buy the product. So you can see Denmark, we only have 5 million inhabitants, but we have a huge ecosystem network for innovation. And I just wish that your minister who was here this morning would have been here now, so I could have shown the slide. But as you can see, I don't even want to count how many networks or institutions we have in Denmark that work within the field of innovation, because it's very small here, I'm sorry for that, but it's about public funding, it's about crowdsourcing, it's about co-working spaces, it's about industries, it's about incubators, accelerators, but I think it's quite impressive. When you think about it, there's only 5 million people living in my country, and these are all the institutions in the ecosystem of innovation in Denmark. Yeah, so we're a small country, we have many clusters, and we have many innovation networks, and last year we had 3,100 companies actually participating in some of these clusters and innovation networks. And we have 22 formalized innovation networks that are sponsored by the Ministry of Higher Education and Science. You can see the list here, and it's all about production and design. It's about ICT, it's about energy, environment, services, healthcare, food, construction, and transport. So those are networks that are partly funded by the Danish Ministry of Science, but also partly funded by memberships. Personally, I'm the member of one of the networks called Welfare Tech within healthcare technology. So I'm also supporting the idea of these networks. So I actually brought this Welfare Tech with me as a case. Welfare Tech is a collaborative innovation cluster with 200 members. And as you can see here, they do a lot of things. They also promote the 200 member companies that actually participate in the cluster. They show a lot of things. They do a lot of traveling. For example, they are focusing on creating these international networks with Norway, with Germany, with the UK. And I put in top, perhaps the next place to go for a welfare tech innovation network could be Asia. It could be Thailand, because I noticed that you are doing a lot of excellent things within medical equipment and healthcare tech in Thailand. So that could actually be the next place for this network to go. And the way the network works is that they create or they establish liaisons and contacts with clusters in Norway, in the United Kingdom, and in Germany. And one of the areas that they collaborate within is about dementia. You know how dementia is a huge problem in Europe for older people who don't remember, and it's an illness. So this is some of it, what they're doing. And then we have also a very big landscape in Denmark for entries for startup companies and innovation, and some of them with global networks. The Venture Cup up to the left is actually a cup or a challenge for university students who are doing startup companies. And I just read the other day that Venture Cup is actually internationalizing their cup. So they have been, I think, establishing international liaisons with a number of countries in the world who would like to do the Venture Cup, just as we're doing it in Denmark. So maybe that's also a possibility for a collaboration between Denmark and Thailand. We have something called Startup Denmark, just as you have the Startup Thailand. I have not personally seen any actions yet from Startup Denmark, but I think it's a quite new initiative. We have something called the Danish Tech Challenge. This is a challenge aimed at Danish tech companies within different sectors. And we have a private foundation which is putting a lot of money into this, and there's a lot of mentoring, there's a lot of sparing and coaching to the companies. They also start thinking about globalization of these tech companies and so on. And of course, there's one startup every year that gets the prize, and it's quite a big amount of money that they actually receive to work further on with the startup company. And then we have a place called the Camp. And the Camp is located together with a very big Danish insurance company. And this insurance company is very visionary. It said to itself, if we are going to bring innovation into our insurance company, we need to invite some startup companies, some entrepreneurs to sit side by us where we are located. So they created the Camp, which is like a collaborating space where they have invited a lot of startup companies to work, but the startup companies have to be within the area of insurtech. They have to work with insurance, and also I think fintech is probably also one of the areas that they work within. And then another example of how you can work is we have a big Danish pharmaceutical company called Leo Pharma. And Leo Pharma established a couple of years ago what they call Leo Innovation Lab in the center of our capital in Copenhagen. And they have inviting a lot of startup people to sit at their premises because they want to innovate the company. They want to innovate the pharmaceutical company. They cannot do this themselves. They need the startup companies to be seated together with them. So they got a lot of money from the management of Leo Pharma, and now they say we're innovating to improve life for people living with a skin condition. And yesterday I just went into the webpage to see what types of persons they have in the Leo Innovation Lab in Copenhagen, and I think there's about like 50 people there now, and they've only been established for 2 years, so that they're growing really fast. So what they're doing is they're elaborating on digital solutions that go side by side with the pharmaceutical products that they work on beforehand. So that's some kind of, let's say, corporate entrepreneurship, that you invite startup companies to be located inside of your own company. Yeah. And we are very lucky in Denmark because we have a public sector which is quite big. We have a lot of public funding, so we have established an innovation fund. It's called Innovation Fund Denmark, and in 2017, there's 1.2 billion Danish kroner actually located in the Innovation Fund to give to, among others, startup companies. For example, in the middle here, you see a title saying InnoBooster. InnoBooster is a program where a startup company can apply to receive a smaller amount of money, I would say. But this amount of money should go to the development of a prototype or the further development of prototypes. And also the mentoring, hiring mentors who can actually help the company go to market. We also have something called Grand Solutions, and those are projects where, for example, a government institution goes together with private organizations and say, we have a huge global challenge that we would like to solve. It could be like within healthcare, how do we make sure that the elderly population in developing countries are going to receive healthcare in the future? So this could be a place where you could actually get a lot of funding to do those kind of innovative developments. Well, now I got to my short innovation story. This is a picture of myself a couple of years ago. I have been so lucky that I have been to some really, really interesting places to learn about innovation, amongst others the Stanford University, Stanford School of Business, but also the Stanford School of Design called the D School. And I have also, in my work with the healthcare innovation, worked a lot with the designers. So I see myself as a multifunctional person because I like to work with engineers, I like to work with designers. Personally, I'm a business graduate, so I'm supposed to be very businesslike, but I'm probably not. But I went to Stanford, I learned a lot about design thinking, I learned a lot about rapid prototyping, and the value of being able to create these prototype things very fast, so you can actually very fast find out whether this product or solution has any market value at all. I just wanted to share this with you because I think it's very important to have those kind of workshops and places you can go to have like the methodology for working within the field of innovation. Yeah, and then I love to say that to me innovation is all about people and it's all about culture. What you see here is a drawing from a professional drawer or artist in Denmark, where I did a big project in the hospitals where we did innovation across sectors. We had patients, we had nurses, we had doctors, we had researchers from universities, and we had startup companies and private companies working with us on innovation. But the thing I saw very from the beginning was, how are these people going to talk to each other? Because like the researchers from the university, they were like over here saying this should be a 5-year project. We need 5 years to do our research. And then on the other hand, we would have the small companies and the startups saying, yeah, but we need to do a prototype within 6 months because otherwise we won't survive. And then we had the nurses and doctors in another corner saying, well, we don't have the time because we have too many patients, and actually innovation, no, we don't have time to innovate. So the big challenge was to make these people work across cultures and across sectors. And this, in my opinion, is very important in innovation, because you can get a lot out of these collaborations across sectors and across professionalism, but you have to orchestrate it. You have to make spaces where people can actually work together, where they can fail, where they can have fun, and they use some instruments to go. So one of the big things I did when I worked in healthcare innovation was to do a very big project over 2 years called the Healthcare Innovation Lab. And the idea here was to invite a lot of different stakeholders. And this is just a slide showing you logos, because we had hospital management in the project. We had small health IT companies. We had IBM. We had CSC, which is a big company as well. We had industry organizations. And we had small companies. And of course, we also had the patient organizations in this project. So we had a lot of different people working together with us. And the aim was to say we have 3 different areas in which we want new solutions for healthcare. So how can we create this together? So it became a very big public-private private sector laboratory where we actually challenged each other over 2 years. And we did a lot of fun things together with the hospital people. We did some gaming. And this picture is some of the nurses working on the outpatient area of the future. Because in Denmark, we are building a lot of new public hospitals in these years. We're spending so much money on top-of-the-line public hospitals. So at that stage, and this is like maybe 4 years ago, we needed the healthcare workers themselves to participate in the design process and the innovation process about what kind of products they needed for the hospitals. So we gave them some shoe boxes. We gave them some Lego, you know, Lego, the Danish Lego, yeah. We gave them Lego, and we gave them Mobilix, which is also these small plastic things. And then we orchestrated simulation. So what they're doing now is they're playing that this is the outpatient area of a hospital. And by doing this, they find out that the way we work today and the way the buildings are designed, forget about it. It's old-fashioned, it's not up to date, it's not the way we're going to work in the future. So by doing this design, simulation, and innovation process together with the companies, with the clinicians, the healthcare professionals, and the researchers, we actually came up with new, fast solutions as to how these things could work in the future. Yes, and then I would like to share a tool that I like very much myself. How many of you have seen this business model canvas before? Okay, a couple of, that's good. Because you probably know about the guy, Alexander Osterwalder, who sort of invented this, but he actually did it with a lot of other people who are also mentioned somewhere on the slide. But personally, I really like this instrument. I have been going through 13 Danish startup companies and SMEs last year using this methodology. And what I really fast discover is that the value proposition, and that's where you find out why are you producing this product? Who's going to buy this solution? This is always the question, and it's not like everybody knows why they're actually working on this solution. So the whole exercise is actually very good, because you get to find out where are the things in your startup that don't work, and where is it you have to become much sharper in your work in your startup company. You can also use it in big organizations that want to do internal innovation. I'm actually doing that right now with a big Danish company in the energy sector. They asked me to help them develop a new concept for a new business area, the business development of it, and they're all engineers and kind of old elderly people, very conservative. So the first time I met them, I was a little scared because I thought, wow, these people are never going to change, they're never going to move. But by using this instrument, we have managed to find out how are they going to, what is the product exactly, how are they going to communicate this product to potential stakeholders. So you can also use it with big organizations. And then working with the startup companies, I have also helped a number of companies to prepare themselves to work globally, because you know, some of you digital companies are actually born global companies. You may have customers and stakeholders in Thailand, but it could also be that your market is actually outside of Thailand. And this is what I see a lot with the Danish companies, because we're a very small country, so Danish startup companies have to actually work immediately with people in Silicon Valley or in China or in south of Germany, because Denmark is not a market which is big. So digital solutions, you have to work globally. So I have helped a number of companies like to get ready to work with people from other places, and I have introduced them to stakeholders in other countries around the world. Well, now I have gathered a number of recommendations or suggestions for you when working across sectors, international networks. In mind, so you know you have formalized your collaboration. At least that's the way we prefer to do it in my culture in Denmark. There's a lot of law in this. There's a lot of regulations. Intellectual property rights. I have seen like hospitals working together with private startups, and then if they don't make sure from the beginning that they know who is actually the inventor and who has the IPR rights, then you have a long battle afterwards if that's important to you. Invest in communication and invest in team building. Those are very, very important things and important areas to think about. And make sure that you reach something concrete, something you can implement, because one of the biggest challenges and barriers for startup companies and also for big organizations is actually to reach the state of implementation of the thing you have been working on. Because I see a lot of startups and bigger organizations working with innovative products and projects where they're just projects, but they actually never become products that are implemented. So, and I know that this is a challenge for you in Thailand. It's also a challenge in my own country. And in Silicon Valley in the US, they always say fail fast, meaning that it's better to realize at the very beginning that this is not going to work. I mean, if this idea is not good, then we may as well just close it down and go to the next one. There's no reason to waste a lot of time and money on ideas and inventions that won't work. Yeah, and then you can think about, are you going to do top-down or bottom-up innovation? Personally, I think both are very important. My own experience is that I have done a lot of bottom-up innovation in healthcare, for example, but if you don't engage the management, the CEO level, then it can be very, very difficult to get funding to go further on with your innovation or your project. So it's very good to do bottom-up innovation like you're doing in startups, but if you're within a big organization, you have to make sure that top management actually wants this. And it's not like a burden when you come and present what you're doing, because then it's not going to go anywhere. And also, this is one of the models that I like very much. I actually stole it from my husband, who's also here today. It's the 4 phases of change. When you work in innovation, you often see from the left that people are very like, no, we don't want to do this. Why are we going to collaborate with people from another country? Or why are we going to collaborate with other professional people that are not engineers, they don't understand us? So first rejection, then resistance, then you get to new orientation, and finally you actually get engaged in innovation. So I have seen this with many people who have been like, why are we doing this, And then the day after they would come and say, okay, this makes sense. This innovation workshop or this startup thing made sense because we have changed our mindset. So it's very important in innovation and in the startup community to change your mindset. Wow, time out, it says. Last slide. So I would say thank you very much for your attention. And of course, if you have any questions or anything you would like to discuss with me here, you are more than welcome to raise your hand and come up with a question. Anybody? Did you understand my English? Oh, you have a question? My own business. My own business. Yeah, the question is, why did I start my own business? I've been working in my own consultancy business for 3 years, and I'm actually turning 53 this year. So when I turned 50, it was like the time of my life to say, okay, I've been working in very big public organizations with healthcare. I've been working in the Ministry of Foreign Affairs. I've been working in smaller private companies and institutions. But I got actually tired of the political barriers and also the shift sometimes that you have a strategy and then the year after there's new people and then you have a new strategy. And it's very difficult to work in the field of innovation when you have all these limits. So I actually wanted to share my own experience and knowledge with other people and see how I could actually move people. And that's also why I have become an external lecturer at the Copenhagen Business School, because I really like to work with students. I can see how much sometimes you can actually help them. If they're talented, you can help them in the right direction. So this is what I really like, actually. Any other questions? Yeah? Mm-hmm. I can't hear you.
Have you ever used the UX and UI method for your customer?
If I have used?
UX and UI method. User experience and user interface.
Yes. When I worked very closely in the healthcare innovation field, we did a lot of that because we had to actually design prototyping and we had to involve the users in the what you call user experience design, UX. So a lot of my work in healthcare has been very much UX oriented. I would say don't produce anything in healthcare unless you have engaged patients, family and healthcare workers, because you cannot come and present a product which is not aligned with the user's needs. And this goes for a lot of other stuff, actually. Is this okay? Yeah. One last question? Yeah.
We are from Government Saving Bank. We want to ask about how we have a cooperate with Denmark and Thai people, Thai bank, to have a business innovation center.
So you are from Bangkok Bank?
No. Government Saving Bank.
Yeah, okay, and you want to make a liaison to Danish institution? Yeah.
Business innovation center, cooperate together.
Yeah, okay. But maybe we can talk after and you can tell me more about it, I think. Yeah, okay. Great. One last question. Okay, anyway, thank you very much for your attention. I'm very pleased to be here.